Welcome to SW's Information Station. We are coming to you today talking about APA 7th edition and what that looks like on an sample document. So we'll switch over to that. I also have some captions, hopefully, that will work today. Maybe not catch everything, but we will try to see if it works today. Getting all fancy here. Okay, so this is our APA sample document we have here. And I have formulated it for the 7th edition. You will have a PDF copy if you are my student. Again, if you are not my student or you are a teacher looking for some stuff, be sure to email me and we will be happy to send this information to you. All right, so the first thing that, if you are familiar with APA formatting, that you may immediately see different is the page header. It used to be we would have to check mark the different first page. We would have running head and a title up here, and then the next page we would just have the title of the paper, and we would insert a page number. Thankfully, they have done away with all of that, and we now just have the page number. So we will get into that in a bit. I made up this document because I've seen a lot of sample papers that are actual sample papers. Like they are actual student papers. This is not a student paper. This is my own creation of a paper that explains APA formatting. And I think this works better, both to keep plagiarism down, because you can't copy this. I mean, obviously anyone would realize that this paper is definitely not anybody's assignment. But it also explains all the parts, and we are up to 11 pages on this. So this is going to be a long video, but I hope to cover the main points as we read through this. I may skip some parts, but I will cover everything that's mentioned in here. All right, so this is your title page for an APA 7th edition paper. And the title page is your first page of the paper. The title page has the title of the paper. So this paper is titled SW's Sample APA Format Paper title. It's a terrible title. I'm terrible at titles. You would put your first name and your last name, the college you are currently attending, your class name, section number. Let's say you are in English 1200-450, okay? You would put that there. Your professor's name, okay, Dr. Doolittle or whatever your name is, your professor's name is. And then you would put the month, day, and year here of when you're writing the paper, okay? So that's the date of the paper. The second page is the abstract. Now, for some classes, they do require an abstract. For others, they do not. Notice that the first line is at the margin. This is a 1-inch margin over here. So the abstract does start at the margin if you do put one. Basically, an abstract, your abstract will involve an abridged summary of your paper and bring out the main points you want to get across to your audience. The length is typically between 150 to 250 words. So it's kind of a short summary of the longer paper. Some teachers do require this. I do not for my classes because you guys are just starting out. But double check with your teacher if they require an abstract. On my sample paper, though, I do go into what the title page is. So note, the first page of this document is your title page, which includes the title of your paper, your name, institution, class information, all the stuff we've covered. The information is centered not only from side to side, okay, but also top to bottom, okay? So, one of the major changes from 6th to 7th edition is in the header. Again, the header only has the page number, but you have to insert the page number. Let's see, page number, okay? Current position, whatever. So you have to actually insert it. Otherwise, putting a number, i.e. typing 1, in the header will not insert 1. It will just put a 1 on the first page, and then on the second page, it'll have a 1. On the third page, it'll have a 1. So you have to do the insert option, okay? Whatever word processor you're using, you need that insert something option to insert the page number, okay? As we start with page 3, some of you, if you have, if your teacher does not require an abstract and you're not putting one, then your page 3 would be your page 2, okay? So this page starts your paper and might be the second page of your paper if your professor does not require an abstract. Restate your title here at the top of the page in bold, then start writing your paper. The first paragraph of your paper, or multiple paragraphs in larger papers, is your introduction. Typically, your introduction introduces your topic to your reader and prepares or hooks your reader into reading the rest of your paper. Do not rely on sources for this paragraph, and instead try to show your reader your interest in this topic. The last sentence of your introductory paragraph or introductory section is typically your thesis sentence, especially if you do not have an abstract page, which helps your reader get a good idea of what the paper will cover in one sentence, okay? So here, right here, is my thesis statement for this paper. Thus, with the growing need for an example of APA formatting for the 7th edition, this paper will help students as a default document to visualize typical APA formatting. Those students may need to check with their teacher for the specific details they prefer. All right, so section headers are not to be confused with actual page headers. So we've dealt with page headers. You double click at the top of the page and you edit there, and it appears at the top of every page. Section headers in APA are dividing your paper into sections so it looks organized, so that it helps your reader figure out which sections they are interested in reading about. Okay, if a doctor, this is the reason why these exist. If a doctor goes and reads a huge, we're saying 120-page at least paper on how to do a surgery, okay, they may skip the sections entitled something like, oh, I don't know, what would it be on? Medications, complications, things like that. And they may skip to the section that says surgery steps, So in other words, it kind of gives you an idea of, as you're going through, oh, I don't want to deal with section headers right now. I'm worried about formatting the body of my paper. There you go. See, so that's what section headers are for. They can help you kind of name each section. This is a level 1 section header. This is a level 2 section header. Okay, these are subheaders. This is not this is the first header of the section. This is the second level header. So that's the second section. No, these are main sections. Okay, the main level 1s are main sections. This is a subsection of that. So here we're talking about level 2 and under, but here we're just talking about section headers. We're not talking about the body of our paper. So when we start back up with another larger section, we need to go back to a level 1 section. So there are several subsections on a popular website about formatting from Purdue University, and there is actually a link at the end. It gives you up to 5 different subheaders if you need them. For my students, typically you don't. I'm just happy if you do a level 1 header. But level 2s are helpful at times. All right, so the body of your paper has paragraphs, okay? And I have had people who give me 1 paragraph for their 3 or 5 page paper. That's not how it's supposed to be done. We need it broken into paragraphs. The paragraphs following the introductory paragraph would typically start the body of your paper. There are typically many paragraphs in your paper depending on the length. If you are doing a research paper, you will either provide research you've done yourself or use sources to talk about research others have done. Most of the time, it's going to be the second. So most body paragraphs will be ideas you want to talk about or supporting paragraphs giving examples to an idea mentioned in the previous paragraph, which all end up tying into your main topic expressed in your thesis statement. Okay. An example would be having a paragraph about statistics about how many people have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Here's how we do an acronym. So we spell out the word first, then we put the acronym in parenthetical marks. We will use parenthetical marks for in-texts as well. So this is the only other place we use parenthetical marks other than in-text within your paper. Okay. So that's how we do a big fancy word acronym. Okay. And how it relates to your topic. And then that would be the first paragraph. This is the second paragraph. You could have a supporting paragraph after that with an example about what people experience when they do have OCD. Okay. While you typically have many paragraphs in the body of your paper, one important thing is your transitions between paragraphs and sections. Transitions are words or phrases that help your reader keep up with you while reading your paper. If you have 1 paragraph about brown bears and the next paragraph about Chinook or king salmon runs in Alaska, you still need a transition to get your audience to bridge that gap between the ideas. If your main topic is about wildlife in Alaska, then you can transition with the phrase, another animal lives in Alaska, other than the brown bear. And I have an in-text here, which is, it's a false source, but the in-text is real. This ties to your previous paragraph and to the next paragraph and your original topic all in one sentence. Okay. So sometimes you need to transition into ideas. Some people call what we will talk about later called the introductory signal phrases. Some people call them transitional phrases. I call them introductory signal phrases because that's more to the point of what we're using it for. It's not a simple transition sentence. Okay. So these are just general transitions to keep your reader with you. You know, if you've got 1 paragraph about penguins and the next one's about polar bears, you need a sentence in there telling your reader, you know, though both of these animals live in cold climates, we are now transitioning from the Arctic to the North Pole, you know, something to show that there is some relation between these topics and these points you're making in your paper. Formatting the body of your paper. When writing the paragraphs, there are many formatting issues you also need to take into consideration before turning it in. Your paper would typically be in Times New Roman 12-point font, which is the font used in this particular paper. Okay. The main paragraphs of your paper will have a first line indent of 0.5 inches. That is right here. And though it's not highlighting very well, you can see up here it is at the half mark. That is a 1 inch mark. That is a ½ inch mark. That is 0. So that is your margin. That's ½ inch from the margin. So 0.5 is ½ inch from the margin. Okay. It used to be you would space 5 times, but if you notice on a computer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have not even gotten near a ½ inch. So you do need to use the tab key or something to achieve the 0.5 inches that you need to do. Or you can go into the highlighting the text and go into paragraph settings and changing them into first line indentation. So paragraph, first line. Okay. And that will do it automatically for you. That way you don't have to worry about it. Microsoft Word also has default setting of adding spaces between paragraphs. This is very annoying. That means that between this line and this line, because we have a line break, it would normally be extra space here. Okay, it'd be very spaced. You see how this is bam, bam, bam. Okay, it's all the same width. And with the Microsoft Word, it tends to expand this part. But you can go into the drop-down menu, add space, remove space, and it will fix that. So quoting in APA style. This is probably the most important section in this paper because properly citing sources and using in-text citations can be tricky, and when done incorrectly can cause many problems. The main problem students face with the dreaded plagiarism is when they do not separate their ideas from the person they are quoting. Normally, I call this messy plagiarism or unintentional plagiarism. I want to make sure the captions get that word correctly. Because you don't mean to do it. I know you don't mean to do it, but it's a place where we as teachers, we read these things and we can't tell. You're not standing over our shoulder telling us, oh, no, this is where the stuff from the source starts. This is where it ends. You've got to put it in your paper. If it's not in the paper readable, we can't help you. Okay? So we can't tell where it starts, where it ends, and we know other people will basically make sure you don't do that again, and it's not fun. Okay, having to rewrite your paper after you've wrote it because you didn't separate sources to begin with is not a fun process. I've seen students do this. I've worked with students who had to do this, and it's not fun. It's not fun. So this is a very important section. Your teacher wants to give you credit for your ideas, but when your ideas are mixed in with the people you're quoting, they can't give you credit for them. Ideally, it's encouraged to introduce the idea topic you're trying to get across in your own words, quote a supporting source directly using quotation marks, and then use your own words after the quote. I would say put an in-text, point to the citation, and then use your own words after the quote to explain how this quote relates to your topic idea you're trying to support in your paper. Some places you will have to paraphrase when you are quoting tables of data or other large amounts of statistics. However, if you get 3 or more words in order from the source, then you need to put quotation marks around it. And I do kind of repeat that a little bit through here because, again, plagiarism is a very serious issue. Though your school may have different rules regarding plagiarism, most plagiarism can result in a student kicked out of school. Plagiarism takes on many forms. According to a dictionary, and this is a true source, plagiarism is to use the words or ideas of another person as if they were your own words or ideas. Well, in this very simple definition, even when you mix up where you're attributing the source, okay, notice I started with according to a dictionary. So that means it's not my words. This isn't my opinion. This isn't my definition. The things from here to here belong to the source. This points you to the reference page where I have that source listed, the original source. Though the strictest form of this definition is talking about copying another student's work with academic papers citing incorrectly or messily, can also mean you're plagiarizing. Some source. This is why it's good to read your stuff, because even teachers make mistakes. Some sources state that it may not be as intentional as copying other people's work. Not citing and keeping your ideas separate from the sources you use in your paper can be just as hazardous to your grades. That sentence is clunky and does not read well, which is why reading things over actually does help your papers. So this sounds like an introductory signal phrase. Some sources state, well, I'm expecting a, in-text at the end. So I need to delete this because this is not from a source. Though it may not be as intentional as copying another person's work. Not citing and keeping your ideas separate from the sources, and not keeping your ideas separate from the sources you use in your paper can be just as hazardous to your grades. See, now the sentence makes sense. I'm telling you, just reread your paper out loud and you will find your mistakes. Okay, in-text citations and APA formatting. Now, some of this is going to assume you've read or been taught APA, MLA before. But seems like everything's fine. Yeah. Anywho, technical issues. Aren't they so much fun? In-text citations in APA format. Though we're tackling the last item first, technically, the in-text citation helps point the reader to the reference page citation that the information comes from. Points the reader to the reference page citation that then points the reader to the original source. There we go. The in-text also mirrors or is exactly whatever is first. This is my rule, my simple, dirty rule of in-text citations. Points to whatever is first on the reference page citation, so we can match the in-text to the citation easily. If the in-text is not exactly the same, it points to a different source and breaks the link. Okay. The citation then contains enough information to lead the reader to the original source where you found the information. If the link in this chain is broken, it causes plagiarism issues. Okay, so think of it as giving credit where credit is due. Okay, sorry for drinking a lot, but my throat gets dry. Unlike MLA format, APA format in-text citations focus on the authors and the year of publication. So this is a typical one for one author. So you would have an author's last name and the year. Okay, so this is good for books that have one author, articles that have one author, that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of variations. The reason APA adds the year is because technology, carpentry, all of the subjects who require APA formatting tend to have technological advancements often. Okay, so if you're quoting something in APA format, let's say on heart surgeries, they want to know if that article on heart surgeries was written last year or if it was written in 1893. Okay, if it was written in 1893, then it is not helpful. Okay, is old information. MLA format does not care about the year. And the reason it doesn't care about the year is because they deal with Shakespeare. They deal with things that were written way back when, and they really don't care. Some things are republished, like Shakespeare's writings. And so they really don't care about the year that much. So they don't put it in here. But all technical, such as nursing, healthcare, technology, computers, all of those require APA because it is formatted in a way that's more logical for those technologies. Okay. But there's very many and variations depending on the number of authors, no author, page numbers, no page numbers, corporate authors, and if you have a title with no author. Okay. We can't cover every example. We're going to go over a few. Okay. So for multiple authors, we do have two authors here. We have the first author's last name and this ampersand. That's an ampersand, which means an and symbol. Okay. And then the last name, comma, year, comma. The P period means we're only dealing with one page number, and the 5. Now, if we had two page numbers, we would put PP, which is Latin for page range, 5 to 10. Okay? But we're not doing that in this particular example. All right? Because normally you only cite from one page, but sometimes you might have a page range. Now, the page numbers are usually used for direct quotes. Okay, so if you're directly quoting from a particular page in a book, in a printed book, in a PDF that has page numbers, you would put the page numbers. As far as the author goes, for corporate government organizations that appear on the reference page citation in the author slot, you would put that name exactly as it appears on the reference page citation. So here we have another in text. Okay, so what we're going to do is kind of move around this paper a bit. Okay, we have scholar and teamer. Okay, but we need to find our reference page. So reference pages, usually it would be the last page of the paper. Appendixes, which I do have one for this particular paper, is after the reference page. But normally your reference page will be the last page of the paper of the same document. So here we have our list of references. These are the citations that point us to that original source that information came from. Okay, so remember we had two authors. Well, we don't have two authors here. We don't have two authors here. Which one is it? Which one is it? Oh, here it is. Scholar and Teamer, 2015. Okay, in text always points to whatever is first. These are situated on the reference page in alphabetical order. So it starts with A and it goes down to Z. Okay. Now, we also have it in hanging format. Now, you can achieve that through the paragraph options, hanging, or you can move around the wonderful ruler guides up here and achieve the same thing. That's about the only way you can get it to normally show up correctly. If you just space it or enter it and space it, if you do any font change or save as a different document, then that gap may change and shift and be up here and down there and just makes a general mess. Okay. So the best way is to either mess with the ruler or the paragraph options. But as you can see, because that first line is at the margin, we can see it easier. Well, we can see that Merriam-Webster's here, government author is here, Purdue is here, so we're looking for Scholar and Teamer, so it's down here. Okay, so it's easier to think of this in terms of a larger cited page that has a lot of citations. But when you don't put them in alphabetical order and you don't do the hanging format, it really is not helpful for your teacher. Trying to sort through them all, trying to find which one that in-text belongs to. And we do check. At least I do. So anyway, we were doing Scholar and Teamer, which was up here somewhere. Okay, right here. Okay, so we had Scholar and Teamer. We found them. The other one was Purdue University. So we go to the reference page again. And there it is, Purdue University. Okay, so let's go back up. All right. If you did not use an acronym on the reference page, we did not put Purdue U. We did not put Purdue Uni. We did not put PU or whatever acronym Purdue University uses for their school. Okay. We spelled out Purdue University on the reference page. So thus, here we need to spell it out. If you did put an acronym on the reference page, okay, let's say you wanted to talk about the U.S. Bureau of Labor, okay, you could put USBOL, but you would have to put USBOL in the in-text to match, okay? I cannot stress this enough. They have to match exactly, okay? Now, the next little tidbit is if you have two sources with the same author and year, APA format simplifies the separation in the in-text and reference page with a letter after the year, okay? So here, we've got a fun little thing. We've got Merriam-Webster 2021A and Merriam-Webster 2021B. Now, those of you who are advanced and want to add two citations together stating that, you know, both of these particular sources agree on something, then you would put them both in the in-text and separate them with a semicolon. Okay, so that shows that both of these, this information that I've just cited, both of these refer to that. Okay, now we have 2021A, 2021B. So then we have to go to the reference page. And we look under M because we've got them in alphabetical order. Here's our Merriam-Webster 2021A, Merriam-Webster 2021B. Okay? So that little letter right there next to the year tells us which one it goes to, which is very, very helpful and very needed when you have exactly the same author and the year. Because if you came across an in-text that said Merriam-Webster 2021, which one would it go to? Well, we have nothing there to say which one it goes to. So we really need that little letter both on the reference page and in the in-text citation for it to make sense of where that particular citation came from. Right here. Now, sometimes you have a document, an article that gets cited, and you realize there's really nobody in the world. We're talking corporate author, individual author, one named author, anything. There is nobody that claims authorship for this particular source. And there is ones like that. So you could start with an introductory signal phrase, take the information from the source, and put your article title in the in-text. Because if we go back to the reference page, again, I said we needed to go back and forth a lot. Here we have the authorless paper on random objects in space. That's first because we have no author. Okay? So, like here, we have plagiarize. Well, Merriam-Webster claims authorship. On their citation buttons, they claim authorship. And the way we cite dictionaries now, they claim authorship. So, we do not put this first. Okay? And if we go back, we have our authorless paper on random objects in space. Now, we have quotation marks around the article title, and there's a reason. If you mention an article title in the paper, you have to put quotation marks around it. If you mention a book, journal, magazine title in your paper, it's italicized, just like it is. If you get confused as to whether to italicize or put it in quotes, here's your guide. Okay? Here we've got authorless paper on random objects in space. Here we have monthly magazine on space. The magazine would be italicized. The paper, even though it's not in quotation marks here, just like MLA formatting, it would be in quotation marks within the paper. Okay? It's kind of a little advanced thing, but it is well needed in some respects. Basically, however you cite something on the reference page, that's whatever's first is going to end up in your in-text. If you have no date, sometimes a website, you just can't find a date for it. If you scroll down to the bottom of the website, sometimes there's a copyright date. You can use that as well. If there is no date, then you will put N period, D period, not only in the in-text, but also on the reference page to show your audience that you did check and there is no date. For MLA, they use the same rule, but it's not as needed because they don't use the ND in the in-text, but it is highly needed in APA formatting. Okay. Once you have your in-text, some people think that just putting quotation marks around the information that comes from a source cites it. And that's all you have to do. So you got your in-text, you got your quotation marks. Where does these things go? That rule might have worked many years ago. It doesn't work anymore. Quotation marks are only used for direct quotes of 3 words or more in order from the source. In other words, word for word. Okay? For paraphrases or summaries not separated by direct quotation marks, it's harder to separate your ideas from your ideas, because it blends. To put it simply, it blends together. It's worse than sticking things in a blender and expecting us to figure out what's carrots and what's celery. You can kind of guess, but you're not, as a student, you're not standing over our shoulder going, "Oh, this is from us. This is from the source. This is an idea from the source. This is from me." We can't tell a lot of times. So you have to make it clear where it starts and where it ends. Thus, to keep all the quoted information separate, we use an introductory signal phrase, which is a short or long phrase that transitions and introduces the author. Now, this is another rule. I put these parenthetical marks here. I should not put parenthetical marks here. The reason being, parenthetical marks in an academic APA cited paper should only be for in-text and acronyms. So I'm going to put dashes right now to show that that is a separate thing I want people to consider, but that is currently my definition, so it's not cited. Anyway, to start the quoted area in introductory signal phrase, the in-text ends the quoted area. Okay, so think of it as sandwiching something. There are many ways to do introductory signal phrases, but it must signal to the reader that they are now reading information from a source, not your opinions, or just simply a word of transition. Okay, you can quote it by stating that in the book, How to Write Biographies by the author suggests that he knows blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we know that's the introductory signal phrase. Everything from here to here belongs to the source. This is the in-text that points to the reference page. A few simple introductory signal phrases include according to one source, which happens to be my favorite. One source states, or you can even elongate it to contain specific information about the source. Okay, so here is one of the biggest areas that you can add a lot, and I'm talking about a lot, of words to your paper and not have it fluff. It's not fluff, it's details. Details are important. Okay? So here we can add a whole bunch of words that is important. According to Miss Jamie Scholar and Mrs. Sandy Teamer in their 2015 article entitled Article in a Scholarly Journal, Expert Ways of Citing, published in the, this should be italicized because it's a journal title, Journal on Citing Scholarly, it states that, so just everything from here to here is an introductory signal phrase. Do you see how many words I just added? 1, 2, I'm not even going to count them. Well, wait a minute. I got to count. 33 words. I have added 33 words to my paper, just expanding the introductory signal phrase. Now, that's pretty good. Because if I use 5 sources in my paper, 5 times 3 is 15. So that's 150 words right there. Just doing that. That's pretty good. So here, blah, 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 that is the stuff between. This would be all the information from the source. Then here we have our in-text to point us to the reference page. So any ideas in sentences outside the quoted area is considered ideas from the person who wrote the paper, which means you. So because we have an in-text here, we know that this information here is from you. I mean, it's not from you, but it's from the person who wrote this paper. It was me. So any ideas in sentences outside the quoted area is from you. Below is a typical paragraph simplified for an example template of a body paragraph containing a source. So, tradition transition into the topic with your own ideas. Okay. I like ice cream. Now, granted, a lot of research papers shouldn't use I, but I'm just using this as an example for now. I like ice cream. That means the person who's writing this paper likes ice cream. Or ice cream is a wonderful invention. It's just a simple statement. You think that, ice cream was a wonderful invention. Okay, whoever invented it really needs a hug. Then we have the introductory signal phrase, according to one source. Quoted area containing direct quotes, summaries, paraphrases can be multiple sentences. Let's see. According to one article, 97% of people who go to this particular ice cream shop like to buy chocolate ice cream. However, 33% also add in vanilla and strawberry. In-text citation. Okay, so that's all the information from the source. Then continue with ideas of why this quote is important and how it ties into the main topic of your paper. This is actually the number one thing we're interested in. In your academic paper, this is the number one thing we're interested in. We want to know why you think this quote is important. Why did you quote this person? Yeah, we can read the quote, but we get something different because we've read it, or maybe we haven't read it before, but we're coming from it from a different angle. The way you see things is important, and that's why we want to hear about it. That's the whole point of these research papers. We want to see what you see in this. So, what does that many people getting chocolate have anything to do with anything? Personally, and this could be your sense afterward, personally, I like butter pecan ice cream and was very surprised that it was not on the list. However, with as many food allergies as there are these days, I can see that a nut-flavored ice cream was not on the list. That would be a very good sentence after that. And maybe my main point of my paper is talking about different flavors of ice cream. Or maybe it's talking about food allergies. Okay? So I'm picking up the ideas that I've stated in my thesis statement that I've got kind of like a running gag in my paper and tied this quote to it, even if it sounds dumb. Okay? It's something somebody else hasn't thought of. I can guarantee that. Even if you think it's the dumbest idea in the world, state it. That's what we're interested in. Okay? It's like, duh, this is how it works. Duh. That's fine, because guess what? Someone else doesn't think that way. And that someone else may be your teacher. And you may say stuff that they've never even thought of. Okay? So remember, when you're doing your body paragraphs, relate it to the main point you're making in your paper and tell us why you're using these quotes. What is it that is the point we're trying to make here? So now we're going to cover making your data work. At the end of this document, you will have an appendix for a purpose other than just an example. So appendixes are a great optional resource for you to express your data on a separate page at the end. You can also use the data as a figure in your paper Other examples help with that. Whatever method you choose, you still need to explain how it supports or disproves your original conclusions or ideas, and show where the reader can access the raw data. So, you know, if you got your data from a place, it's always a good idea to cite it. If you personally made up the data due to doing an actual firsthand research of you counting how many people are at a Subway on a Tuesday between 9 and 10 o'clock, then you would just have the data there. But it's always a good idea to explain where you got this data from. Okay, so I don't have an example of adding in a figure, but that is pretty easy to do, as you just put a box in and put figure 1. This is what it means. Yeah. But our appendix, we can go ahead and go down and show that, would start with the word appendix and whatever letter it is that you would have, A, B, C, D. You can go quite high in that. So we have Appendix A here, and we have the information broken down. So it's more along the lines of, for further information, please see Appendix A. That's how you would use it. Now we are to the conclusion. Now we may think, oh, this is the end of the paper. This, I can just tune out. No, because after this, we're doing the reference page. Yay. Because it's the last page, and I haven't even scratched the surface. So, conclusion. Finally, your last paragraph or section. This could be multiple paragraphs. If you have the APA section header, you could put conclusion and then have multiple paragraphs. Okay? So, your conclusion section can be multiple paragraphs. This paragraph is going over briefly everything covered in your paper and bring up any conclusions you would like your audience to consider. Okay? So what's the main point of your paper restated in a bigger format and kind of driven home? Now that we've seen all this, this is what we think. In an APA paper, many things make up an APA paper. Getting your research, your ideas, your data across to your reader effectively is the focus of APA paper. Formatting transitions, using quotes effectively, and in-text citations are only some of the things that help you get those ideas across to your audience. After your conclusion paragraph, you would insert a page break and start your reference page. On your reference page, you sort the entries alphabetically, as we saw, and put in hanging format, as we saw. In Microsoft Word, you can find the hanging format in the paragraph options, which are up here. And if you right click, also here. But with Google Docs, you will have to play around with the ruler in order for it to do it automatically. References. Okay, so this, at a glance, I can tell you that is a book. That's a book printed by Adventure Time Press, which is a publisher out of New York City. The title of the book is in italics. The year it was published is here, and it was written by this author. Okay, this is an authorless article on random objects in space. Okay, here is the date. Now, normally magazine articles have an author, but this is a test, so I want to give you some variations here. But here's a magazine article, and here's the pages it's found on. Now, these are printed articles, okay? The rest of these, down to here, are not printed articles, okay? This one's a printed article. The main thing I can tell from a glance that they're printed is because they do not have the link. if it is found online, we have a link, okay? But we don't just have a link, okay? I do have some students who think that, oh, I pasted a link, I'm good. No, not even close. We're not there. There's a lot more that goes into this. Okay, so here we have a website, government website page, USDA. Here I've got a dictionary, 2 dictionaries, same dictionary, 2 different entries. So 2 different words looked up in a dictionary. This, again, needs the A and the B because the author and the year are the same. Now, if the year is different, we don't have to worry about it. If the author is spelled different, we don't have to worry about it. But if they're same author, same year, we have to put the A and the B in. Okay? But notice, we've got 2 definitions from a dictionary. We could do the same thing with an encyclopedia. Okay? So there's a lot of places you can get sources. Just because there's a, 12 source requirement, check to see if dictionaries and encyclopedias, if you can use multiple words from there. Because defining things is still a good idea in your paper. Because how you define something and how your audience defines something is usually different. So that's a good way to get a lot of sources, is the dictionary and the encyclopedia. Here we have another website. Okay, so for all these website sources, I have the appendix. Okay, and these are new rules to 7th edition APA formatting, which to me was extremely confusing, and I had to sit down with 2 textbooks and Purdue University's Purdue University has the online writing lab formatting website, which is always up to date and has the newest rules and is basically the best place to find sources, how to cite things. But I kind of had to break it down for me to figure out what was going on. Okay, so you may need to check with your teacher to see what they think the actual rules say. They may be using a different textbook that, shows it differently. Or they may just go, yeah, forget this. Anything that's online, just go with this rule or this rule, okay? So I'm including both rules here so you can see the difference. Now here we have the type of online citation, okay? Let me, in fact, bold this line so you can see this is the title. Oops. Okay. Didn't mean to do that. That's okay. We just expand this out a little bit. I do accents, sorry. All right, there we go. That looks better. Okay. So let me get that a little bit bold so you can tell that's actually the top part. We have common websites, magazine outline, online, newspaper online, news websites, journal articles, dictionaries, anthologies, reports by a government, dissertations, chapters of a book. Why they do this, I don't know. It doesn't, this part makes no sense to me. So if it doesn't make any sense to you, you're not the only one. You're not the only one, but I don't make these rules. Okay, so I think the only explanation I can give is that magazines, newspapers, they expect these to be scholarly-ish sources. And I'm saying ish because some people don't. Work in anthology, dictionary and encyclopedia, journal articles, especially the journal articles, are better sources. Okay, we'll just call them what they think it is, better sources. Okay, and that's why they're still cited under this section. Okay, now these codes are actually my Little Seagull Handbook and the Al Purdue website, which is where I got the information from. And this is how they agree. Okay, and I found they agree on both sections. This is the old way of citing it. This is the way that makes sense to me, because a book title would be in italics. The chapter of a book would be italicized, would not be italicized. The book title would be italicized. The chapter title, if put in your paper, would be in quotation marks. Okay, so we had that up here with the first one. Here's the book title. Okay, here is a magazine. Okay, so that's the way it was. Merriam-Webster Dictionary Online. It shows that part is italicized. This part, which is the actual page or word or phrase you're looking up, that is not italicized. This dictionary or encyclopedia shows that. Okay, so that's the old way of citing. This, yeah. So down here, I give you some examples. Here we have the author, the year, month, and day of publication. Sometimes it's just the copyright date at the bottom of the page because it doesn't give a publication date. The web page in italics, that is this. Okay, so this is common websites, news websites, a report by government, and a dissertation. Okay. Then the website title is put there, not in italics. Then we put the link. Okay. Now, I used a source that sort of makes sense because this is actually an ebook, but it's not an ebook. It's not through Kindle or anything like that. So this book was written by Ellen White. This is not when she wrote it. It's a copyright date because it doesn't give a date on the website. This is actually a book, but it's a page of that book. Okay. This is the website that book is found on. Well, that book could be found on other websites. Okay. So that's kind of the idea. Things on these websites could be found on other websites. Okay. I think that's the explanation here. This is the old way. And this is the way you do websites. Let's see. That are work on an anthology, dictionary, journal articles, magazines, and newspapers. Newspapers are the New York Times, Greenville, the Daily Reflector is from Greenville. Okay. Not to be confused with news websites, which are like, TV5 has their website online where they post videos about their website. Their news team at 6. That's a news website. Okay. Newspaper is the old, Chicago Times, things like that. Okay. So this is the New Yorker, which is actually a magazine. And it's from their website, but it was actually also published in their magazine. But I don't have page numbers because it's just on their website now. Here's their authors. Here's the publication date. I have a full date there. Here is the title of the article, and here's the title of the magazine. So I think it's just another way of separating common sources from more scholarly acceptable sources. And It's confusing, but unfortunately, I think that's the way it's going to go. MLA does not have these rules, but APA has come out with these. So as you can see with my government website, government author spelled out, we have the web page in italics for the government website. The actual website title is not in italics, and we have the link. Here we have the dictionary, the word or phrase I looked up, corporate author, copyright date, dictionary title in italics, and then the link. Purdue University, although I would call them a very good source and a excellent place to find information on citing, I can't justify under these rules to be a magazine, newspaper, journal, article, dictionary, or encyclopedia. It sort of could be considered an encyclopedia, but that's stretching it. And so I had to cite it as a common website, which is why the APA Formatting and Style Guide general format page is in italics, and Al Purdue, which is the website, is not. Okay, so it's just weird. But if it's a printed source, we don't have to worry about this rule. Okay, so this is just for online sources, which unfortunately is where you get most sources these days. So I've included this appendix to hopefully help you out with this concept, as it was a mess for me to figure out, and I hope it's a lot easier for you to figure out. So anyway, this is an APA sample paper in 7th edition. You can see we have the simple page numbers now that update for each page. We have the reference pages, and we have to deal with the switcheroo of italics. What is in italics? Only on website citations. Book, magazine, those tend to be about the same. Our in-text citations go to the first thing on the page, on the reference page citation, including the year. And I hope this kind of helps you understand citing, figuring out sources, how to write a paper, because formatting is a lot to do. You can't memorize all of this. It takes many years of constantly working with it to memorize things like this. So I hope this guide helps you figure out how to do this, and good luck with your papers. Have a great day.